This episode of Lords of the Storm is brought to you by our sponsors over at Patreon, where you, yes you, can also support the show. Just head over to patreon.com/Lords of the Storm to become a patron today.
Heroes, gather tribute and earn my favor. What do you say? Are you ready to begin?
Hello, everyone. My name is Greg Gizmo Zord Parker, and you are listening to Lords of the Storm, episode 134, the weekly Heroes of the Storm podcast for you, the true Heroes of the Storm. I'm joined tonight, of course, by the Zord Lords themselves, Mr. Kevin Multi-Zord Ellis and Ryan TBK Zord Reader. And on this week's episode, we got a lot of stuff. For those of you that liked our Michael Udall interview, we got another interview lined up with Justine that's going to happen. Lined up. It already happened, but it's going to happen for you tonight on this episode or today, whenever you're listening to this, as well as some new stuff coming from Battle.net that we're going to get into a little bit. We're going to get into some tips and tricks, and of course, the HGC as we're coming up here on BlizzCon. But first, let's see how the other Zords are doing. Multi-Zord, how are you doing tonight?
I am doing quite well. How about you?
I am doing all right. Yeah. That's it.
That's what we like to hear.
This episode is not awkward at all.
Just me, or like any time I say all right, that goes through my head? All right.
It doesn't just go through your head. It goes through your mouth and then through the internet.
That's it.
But yeah.
Into our ears and then back out of our mouths.
Yes. And it's
Presumably.
an endless circle.
Yes.
But you know what that circle is? All right. TBK, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing okay now. I was doing good, but
You're not
You're
doing
doing
all right?
okay.
we just bumped it down to okay after that.
All right, that's fair enough. What have you guys been up to in gaming this week? TBK, we'll start with you.
I've been playing some Divinity 2 Original Sin, and that has been extremely fun. Highly recommend it. Tons of fun, especially if you're like a D&D fan. It's basically D&D the video game in a lot of ways, or at least it's as close, I think, as I've ever seen a game come to it. So it's pretty fun.
What difficulty are you playing on, out of curiosity?
The normal one.
Okay.
Not the surveyor or the explorer. Yeah,
See,
it's just the normal one, and it's tough.
It is
Tough game.
and that's when I first started. I got like 2 hours into it playing on that. Then I started over with the custom character, not an origin one, on the Explorer, just because this type of game for me, and same along with like the lines of Witcher and stuff, I always want to start things hard just because I'm like, oh, I'm a gamer, I should probably do it hard. But those type of games, I just like going through the story, and it can feel really fun to just be overpowered sometimes. So I've been having a lot of fun with it on the Explorer mode. But it is a good game. I know
it is a good game.
A lot of people on the Twitters in the Heroes community are playing it right now.
Yeah. And speaking of Heroes, I did play lots of Heroes. I've been doing my Team League stuff, which has been really good. We're starting to really come together and click more, which is nice. We went 3-1 in Team League in our practice night last night, which was really cool. And finished placements. All the seasons of not caring about Team League have caught up with me, so there's going to be a little grinding to do as we go to get back probably where I should be, but it'll be fun. We should be able to get through it fairly quickly because I'm the warrior player and shot caller on our team, and so it's been fun. It's been a lot of fun. I'm learning a few new tanks, picking back some tanks up that I haven't played in a while. I've been getting to play a lot of Diablo, which is super freaking fun for me because I absolutely love Diablo.
Like the hero and not the game, right?
Yes,
Okay.
the hero, not the game. I do love the game too.
Right.
In spurts, but yeah, Diablo's been a lot of fun, and played my first live game on Volskaya in Team League, which was really interesting, but we ended up dominating it. So I'm liking the map so far. It's pretty cool.
Very nice. I had a follow-up question and I forgot it, so it's good. I'm a good interview.
So just move on to me then.
Viewer. Yeah, Multi. Hey there. How are you doing?
Hey.
What have you been up to in video gaming this past week?
I actually have something new for you guys
What?
for once and forever. Yeah. Okay, so I picked up. It's called Metroid: Samus Returns for the Nintendo 3DS family. Any of those systems, and super fun. Okay, this thing is super high rated. All of the different like IGN and whatnot, all the different outlets have given it super high ratings for a good reason, because this game is like they're trying to remake or reimagine, if you will, Metroid 2 for the original Game Boy, just in idea and concept, and that you're going to SR388, which is the planet that the Metroids actually come from, and just killing them all because you don't know any better at this point in the storyline of Metroid, that is. So there's that going on in the background, but otherwise, like, it's honestly more like Super Metroid than anything else in terms of like flavor, functionality. They've got some new mechanics, of course, but honestly, it's feeling a lot like Super Metroid, and that's one of my favorite games of all time, and I'm just digging the hell out of it right now. So Metroid: Samus Returns, pretty good one. But of course, I played some Heroes as well. Can't go wrong there.
That's interesting. I'm gonna, in all honesty, I don't think I've ever played a Metroid game. I know Samus from Super Smash Brothers. I've known who Samus is, and I also know that it's Nova. So there's that.
Oh, inside the suit, yeah.
Yes, it is Nova.
Yeah, pretty much Nova. Even in the the color of the jumpsuit and everything.
It is true.
Very, very strange. I feel like Samus was here first, though. NES, I don't think Blizzard has that one. So
yeah, I don't know. For myself, it has been a little bit of Divinity as well, and last night I was able to get in a little bit on Destiny 2 again, just before Convert to Raid happened because the new faction stuff came out. And Heroes, I haven't been able to play since this last patch went live, unfortunately, because of work and podcast stuff. But I am super stoked to get in there on the live servers now with both the new map and Ana. I did get a couple games before servers went live back in the PTR just because I wanted to play the maps more. And it's still feeling really good. And it seems it's being accepted much better than Hanamura was. So that's
it just feels like a Heroes map, doesn't it? Like,
it does.
What you're doing within the map just makes sense. It flows well.
Yeah, and
I'm feeling okay.
Yeah, that just goes back to like Hanamura, I think, was just possibly too different. It was too far out there. I think they found the limits of potentially like where it differs too much from a MOBA, but they may still potentially be able to get it work. We'll see what it's like when it comes back out.
Sure.
Let's get into the show, TBK. What do we got going on in the store sales?
So this week we have Cassia and Zeratul on gem sale, as well as Pirate Queen Cassia, the Golden Unraveler Zeratul, Azure Grimskull Nazebo, Techno Super Sonia, Lurk Ablo, Amber Ghost Tracer, Pajamather Apather, which if you don't have that skin, why not?
That's get
it now.
For real. TBK
Seriously.
bought that skin without even having Abathur.
Yeah, before I owned Abathur. Like, that's how good that skin is. Stormwolf Rhaegar, Marshall's Outrider, and the Verdant Magic Carpet.
Not bad.
Yeah, I have that old Halloween pajama or the Abathur skin rather, but I almost said Pajamather instead because that's all I play is Pajamather.
What's the Halloween skin?
It's got that kind of skull over his face.
Brain thing,
yeah, skull.
The eyeballs on the
Skull
top
thing.
there.
Yeah.
I completely forgot about that skin.
It's
because
pretty
of
cool
Pajamather.
still, but yeah, you don't need it. You don't need it. You got Pajamather. So.
All right, let's move on into the free hero rotation this week, Multi.
So for this free hero rotation, I'm not going in the regular order of things. I've instead sorted them by evilness, and this list will progressively get more evil. So let's start off with Uther. He's a light-wielding grandpa, pretty nice guy all around. Tyrande also kind of wields holy magics, but has a bow, so presumably slightly more evil. Jaina is third on this list, but that's if you're just playing the base skin. Obviously, she gets way more evil if you go the Dreadlord Jaina skin, because frankly, it's the difference between I'm here to help and none can escape the chill of death. You know what I mean? So, yeah. But regular Jaina is third on this list. Then we've got Muradin, and he's just an ally. I don't know. He's probably not that bad. I've got Raynor and then Tychus, and people who know more about StarCraft will probably be able to tell me which one is actually more evil than the other, but I've kind of just jammed them together. Rexar is a pretty nice guy. He was part of the original Horde as they left Draenor, but then he kind of left and went and did his own thing, so he's not too bad. We're getting into evil, though, with Diva. Like, you wouldn't think she's evil, but she kind of treated the first Omnic War as if it's a video game, just kind of killing robots willy-nilly and pretending it was a game the whole time. It's kind of creepy to me.
Also related to Deathwing.
Yes, exactly.
There you go.
That is an evil skin. Absolutely.
Super evil.
And Sonya has a new evil skin as a Death Knight, so she's up there as well. I put Sergeant Hammer up here. She's probably a nice enough lady, but she, instead of using her tank, chooses to jump out of it and sucker punch people instead. So, I mean, that's at least badass, if not just flat out bad. So, and then we've got Ragnaros, the Fire Lord. Kind of speaks for himself. Giant evil fire guy. I would argue that Nazebo's even more evil than him. I just get that vibe from him. I don't know. It kind of creeps me out. And then we've got Gul'dan, who, of course, destroyed his world, tried to destroy another one, died, came back from like a whole weird timey-wimey thing, and then let the Legion into that world. So I'm going to put him as pretty evil, just generally speaking.
Yeah, he's pretty high.
And then the most evil hero or character in any medium at all, Brightwing. That's all I need to say.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I will say I'm going to disagree on the Jaina placement. I think Jaina should have been right behind Gul'dan.
Really?
Yeah, she's super crazy now.
Well, now, but this, I feel like the Jaina that's in the Nexus is like an older time.
I
like,
don't know.
I'm here to help and kind of like all this other
Back
stuff.
before angsty Jaina.
Yeah, back before
Yeah.
Garrosh and everything. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So,
Okay, fair enough. Well, let's go ahead with some Patreon updates. Last week we had 2 new Patreon members to welcome, and they both earned their Zord titles. So without further ado. You have been deemed worthy of bearing the Zord title. Welcome to the Zord Lords. Welcome to the Zord Lords, Shorizord and Zabzord. That's a cool Zord title, Zabzord.
it is.
It rolls
I like it.
off the tongue very nicely. Now let's go ahead. Oh, actually, what am I doing? Welcome to the Zord Lords. And also, again, thank you so much for supporting the show. My mind is not working correctly tonight. We really do appreciate it. We really do. And for anyone who would like to get their own Zord title, if you would like to support the show, you can do so over at patreon.com/Lords of the Storm. Now the news. First up, there is a Battle.net mobile app, and not the Authenticator, because I mean that's still a thing, but this is an actual Blizzard Battle.net mobile app that is like a mobile friends list. You can see who is on, what they're playing. It has chat that you can get into, shows mobile presence, and probably the coolest thing I think about it is the mobile friending.
Yeah.
It is, I don't know how many times like I meet people and they're like, oh, let's play on Battle.net or whatever. It's like, oh, what's your battle tag? It's Gizmo's number something. I don't remember. So this is going to actually have a few quick ways you can do it. Obviously, you can do it from your phone real quick, or they're also going to have QR codes that you can scan, so you don't even have to remember your numbers, which is neat. And just in time for BlizzCon coming up here, now the only thing they need to fix is the limit of friends we can have.
Yes.
Because
I was gonna say, like, this is awesome, but it needs 2 things. One is definitely friend limit increase, because 200 just ain't cutting it anymore.
On, 500.
It's really not.
It's really not, and especially now that you're putting this out, and especially when I go to BlizzCon, like this is probably going to be like greater than 50% of my communication with other people just through the app. Because it'll just be like texting, but you won't have to have the person's phone number.
Yeah, they should be able to like
True.
add in group chats and stuff with
Yeah.
this.
Yeah,
That'd be
so
cool.
That would be
hopefully group
excellent.
chat is coming at some point. But then, come on, Blizzard,
Clan chat.
a pure offline mode.
Yes. That's
Where
it.
the crap?
Listen to these ideas, Blizzard. We are giving you so much. gold
Where
right here.
the crap?
Let's do it. Let's do all of this.
Appear offline on the app, appear offline in individual games, all of the above.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
All the above.
And that is available on both iOS and Android. So even if you're one of those Android users, you can still do this.
I'm excited for this, though. I mean, I feel like we've been asking for something like this for forever. I'm kind of surprised by how quickly it came out, in the sense that, like, I didn't see it coming. I hadn't really heard a buzz about this happening until I just hopped on Twitter one day, and I think Ro from Rail Maintenance and a couple other people were tweeting about it, and I was like, "That's a thing, really?" And so, no, it's cool to see. I hope this is like one of many steps in the direction of just making us feel more connected, like you said. Tie it in with clans, tie it in with group chats, anything like that. Bring it on. Sounds good to me.
Yeah, for sure. And another reason this may be becoming a thing, according to Reddit, Inquisitive Git says Blizzard is making a mobile MMO RTS game, possibly Warcraft branded. Now, I don't know where this person is necessarily getting their information from. Do we know? Does anybody know? Or is this just somebody saying
It looks
this?
like it's a Blizzard posting.
It's from job postings. We've
Yeah, it's
been
a job-
seeing more
Okay.
and more like mobile job postings, and this is to me like both good and bad, because it seems like Blizzard, like a third of Blizzard, like a third of the company is working on unannounced stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, like secret stuff. Like there's been so many big names in
Dustin
just their
Browder.
main franchise. Dustin Browder. It's escaping me right now. The game director for World of Warcraft. Like there's just been a bunch of big names that have left to go
Holinka.
work on these. Yeah, Holinka.
He was PvP on World of
Yeah,
Warcraft.
there's been a ton of these huge names that have gone to just work on these secret unannounced projects, and I really hope they're not all mobile, because I personally am not a huge fan of mobile games.
Well, here's the thing, though. Mobile games, we're entering a whole new era. It's literally, it's not just chucking birds at pigs anymore. I tried out as well. So I've tried a couple of the MOBAs that are out on mobile. They're not perfect, but I'm a believer that MOBAs could work on the mobile platform if done right. I've also actually just this past week tried out another one called Crusaders of Light, which is it's a mobile game. It's an MMORPG on mobile. The videos I saw on it looked pretty good. It's actually done by NetEase, which, if I'm not mistaken, is also the like Chinese counterpart that Blizzard works with. But it's an MMO, and it's, again, not perfect. It has some lag issues and stuff, but I mean, you have a few abilities and you move around and you can cast them, and it feels okay. There's like raids and PvP and all this other stuff in there too. So I really do think that if any company can capitalize on this kind of thing, it's Blizzard for sure. And as the phones just get more advanced, and as the networks to support them gets more advanced, we could really see something cool here, and specifically this MMO RTS. So I'm not familiar with the original poster here. Linked a video to a game called Art of Conquest, which kind of gets you in the idea. It's just a little clip on it, but it seems like you have a top-down view, and you're moving a bunch of units around in such a way that you're like commanding them. It's like sort of a tactical game, but on mobile. And I've been calling for this for a while. I feel like I've even specifically mentioned this on this show, that at some sort of tactical PvP game that you're playing on the mobile would be so cool for me. And I'm really hoping that's where they're going with this, because this is exciting to me.
That's interesting. I mean, you specifically have joked in the past about Warcraft 4 being on mobile. Please,
Yes.
please don't let that.
And
Please don't
Diablo
let that
4.
be. Oh my
Let's do
gosh. The thing is, and maybe I'm old school. Like personally, I hate playing games on phones. Like it's one of the at least super involved games, or games that are going to have like more depth. Because if I'm going to go that far, I'm just going to play on my PC. Because most of those will drain your phone battery ridiculously fast, and my phones these days barely have enough battery to get you through the day just with regular usage, let alone a graphics intensive RTS that you're going to be playing for, 30 minutes or an hour or two at a time. So, I don't know. Like, just personally, I think I'm just not interested in mobile games. And I know there's so many people who are. Like, I might be minority even on this one, but I think I'm just more old school. If I'm going to play a game, I'm going to sit down in front of my computer and do it, unless it's just some little like 5-minute thing that doesn't destroy my battery.
Question for you. Oh, you can go ahead.
I don't think you're in the minority when it comes to gamers. I think obviously a lot of gamers like to play on console and PC. However, I don't doubt Blizzard's coming out with stuff for mobile because it is a huge market.
Oh yeah,
there are
it's huge.
So
and I'm probably
not
I may not even be the intended audience.
Yeah, exactly.
For that, right?
And the other thing, I had an interesting conversation with, I forgot who it was. We were going back and forth on Twitter. Just when I asked what people were excited for at BlizzCon, and they had mentioned a possible new IP announcement or new game announcement. And I had said, I don't, because of everyone leaving, I was like, I would love that, but I don't really expect that for another 2-3 years probably, because it's still like those people just left to go over. But then they brought up a good point of, maybe not all those people are going to the same thing. There's obviously some of them maybe headed to mobile, maybe none of them headed to mobile. Maybe they are all on some big project, but there are some mobile stuff coming out. And I don't, I'm along kind of the same lines as you, Ryan. If it's a game, then I want to play it on PC, console. However, there are some good stuff out there. Some of the MOBAs are okay. My biggest problem with it is the controls. It's never going to be ideal on a flat screen with those touch controls. So I prefer more experiences on mobile, like short story stuff, narrative stuff, and they're, idle games. Idle games get me sometimes.
Like Hearthstone works.
Hearthstone works.
Yeah, Hearthstone works. It's a card game. That's something. And honestly, even when I was playing Hearthstone and I had it on my phone, I never played a ton because it destroyed my battery. And it's just one of those things that I'm not charging constantly as I'm walking around and doing stuff. And if I'm going to play something, I'm going to sit down on the computer and play Hearthstone.
Yeah. And that's the question I was going to have for you earlier, TBK. So would you guys feel better about this game if it was available on PC and mobile, like Hearthstone is?
Okay. Totally.
If it's a game like Hearthstone,
it depends how they can translate it, right? Because if your game is going to be on mobile, it's going to have to be dumbed down in some way, shape, or form. Now, if it's a really good game, you can translate that experience and give it controls, and it's just one of those. Okay, it's an MMORTS, which means against other people. So do you segregate the mobile users and the PC users, and give the PC players now have better controls, so it's more enjoyable for them? You can still have kind of deep stuff in a mobilized game. It just may be a bit harder to fully appreciate it or take longer to do something or something on a phone just because of the controls. But then if both player bases are playing at the same time, depending on the game type, of course, you might give one an advantage on the PC just because controls are better. And so it's a fine line to walk. But then at the same time, if it's on both, but you're putting the mobile experience first, it may just be so watered down or so thin, mobilized, I guess would be the word, that it's a normal gamer would dismiss it because it's not worth the time.
Not a deep
when you're
enough
sitting, game. When you're sitting at your computer.
So I guess the controls would have to be like comparable between the two, like Hearthstone is. You're clicking and dragging cards.
So it's going to depend on the game. Like if it's Hearthstone-esque or a complete new IP, it could work. Just for instance, say this is Warcraft 4, I would hate that because there are so many controls in Blizzard RTS, StarCraft and stuff, shortcuts that they would have to dumb it down a lot, unless it was like, okay, Warcraft 4 is coming out on PC, but here's Warcraft Mobile. It's like a separate dumbed down version that's completely separate.
Same-ish name, different stuff.
Yeah. So
it's like if they came out with a version of Heroes of the Storm on mobile, and it was same-ish name, but just kind of a little bit of a different experience.
Yes.
Optimized for mobile, not the same thing.
I'm a believer in mobile MOBAs, at least. After, I mean, I hate to say it because the game has its flaws for sure, but Mobile Legends, the controls really felt okay. Like you did have to get used to it, but I felt like I got it, and I could actually use some of my MOBA skills in the game. So
it's one of those. If I'm in a situation to play that, though, I'm just gonna play Heroes.
Oh yeah, no, I get that. But I wasn't in those situations. I was on the toilet.
It's not as big of a deal for me anymore. But back when I was rock climbing every day, and even when I was diving quite often, my hands are so callous, my fingers, that touchscreens didn't work well for me. So the MOBAs, when I had tried them previously, it was awful, an awful experience because I couldn't.
Dude, I saw those.
Get it to do what I wanted.
That picture of your hands you just posted. Like,
oh yeah,
that's a crazy stuff.
That's what my hands look like.
That's rough. I mean, and all that to say, then since this isn't Heroes related, we won't dwell. But it's interesting, and we could see something at BlizzCon.
Yes.
Potentially. Whatever we see, if it is a totally new IP, those heroes could come into Heroes. So there you go.
It's true.
It's Heroes related. All Blizzard is.
Oh, one other thing, just because we're talking about Heroes coming into Heroes and stuff, and something I noticed while we were doing Convert Trade last night. The legendaries, your legendaries in World of Warcraft can now get upgraded to item level 1000. The resource you have to gather in that game are 50 Awoken Titan essences. Awoken is a race in Destiny 2, and Titan is a class, and the head guardian in Destiny 2 is an Awoken Titan. So it's beginning.
It's already happening.
It is beginning. The crossovers.
Interesting.
Good. At least Titans are in the Warcraft universe too, so I can accept that.
Yeah. So I was very intrigued by that. Now some actual Heroes of the Storm stuff. So the new gym purchase mount is the Celestial Raptor, and that is live now. Royalite, as we mentioned, you should follow her on Twitter. If you don't, has a lot of always breaks a lot of stuff for Heroes of the Storm. Lots of good posts. So check that out.
Yep, you can get it as cheap as the $5 gem purchase.
$5, worth it, I think.
I think because then you use that $5 to buy something else, and it's like it's free.
I mean, may have already bought it.
Those mounts. So I still use my Celestial horse mount for my Tyrande because I use the purple like superhero Tyrande skin, and it looks amazing with the Celestial mounts. Yep. So
most things do.
Mm-hmm.
Celestial Steed.
Yes.
Yes.
So that's it. Yeah. The PTR patch is now no longer PTR patch. It is live. Ana has entered the game. Volskaya Foundry has entered the game. And there have been some changes, some interesting changes, some good changes, I think, to some battlegrounds. And the main ones here are, well, first off, Impaler and Trooper camps, which you find on both Volskaya, Battlefield of Eternity, and Infernal Shrines. They have decreased the early game health on those. Scaling values have been increased by roughly 50% for base damage. And Defender Mercenaries can no longer affect displacement effects. So, what's... So that was like pushing out of range? For pushing?
Yeah, I think the whole deal about this is making them just a little more impactful.
Yeah.
Because especially those Impalers, they just didn't do a lot of damage, like at all.
Yeah.
And so they're buffing them up some, and that'll be good. It allows them to be a little more of a threat as well. So say like you're on Battlefield of Eternity, you're on Infernal Shrines, and you're not the ones getting the objective, or you've been pushed off, or you're down a man or two, and no, you can't go in. It's going to be even more advantageous to take those merc camps in the interim
Yeah.
and get value out of them.
Agreed. The bigger changes, though, are the merc camps that are on Hanamura and Volskaya. And we noticed this when we were playing our pre-show game last week that we weren't streaming it or anything. But the items they drop no longer require that short channel time to pick up. It's an immediate pickup, which is super nice.
It feels so much better.
Yeah, it just flows
really
better.
does. Because it's just like, well, I just killed this, and now I've got to stand here and wait to maybe get interrupted after I just killed it. It puts it in line with the rest of the merc camp stuff, really, because as soon as you kill the merc camp, get your globe.
I still have to stand on the point to get it, but this is definitely.
You shouldn't have to channel again after you channeled, pretty much.
Yeah. The one thing about this, though, is possibly some people accidentally picking it up whenever it goes down, since there is no longer a channel. But I think overall it's a good change. And an even better change, support camps can no longer be captured with bribe talents.
On Volskaya.
And Hanamura.
Yeah, and Hanamura.
No, it hasn't been changed on Hanamura.
This is Hanamura and Volskaya Foundry, at least according to the patch notes.
I was reading earlier that it hasn't been changed on Hanamura.
Maybe it's
not that it matters.
Yes.
Yeah, it doesn't.
Well, maybe it has been.
It may
changed,
be changed. Yeah, it may be changed when it comes back, and most likely will be. But I don't think they updated Hanamura, the one you can do in custom.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
I'm not positive about that. I don't know why I would subject myself to a custom game when it's not in the regular queue. But my guess is that's going to be one of the changes when it comes back.
Yes,
because I think that was one of the biggest Hanamura problems, was dropping a single bribe stack on this very high XP, very valuable AoE heal.
Oh yeah,
yeah, and a merc camp that was hard to solo, especially early on, and so they've just kind of removed that. It's just like, nope, you can't take that with bribe.
Yes,
there was something we discovered at the media summit. We thought it was gold. We were like, oh, this is gonna be broken good, and I guess in some ways it was. So now it's nerfed.
So as we mentioned, Volskaya is in the game now. Really, between the patch notes and stuff, there wasn't a ton of changes besides these merc camps we've been talking about, and then Dragon Knights. Movement speed being reduced by 20%, and starting health reduced from 9,300 to 8,350, which is a pretty big change there. And I think do you think this has to do with the fact that they're now unstoppable and stuff, just trying to keep them more
most
from
definitely
overpowered? And so
I
would
kind
be
of talk
surprised
about it in the developer comment here, just saying that, originally crowd control effects on vehicles were reduced by 50%, and displacement effects affecting vehicles were not reduced at all. But over time, and as they say, as the hero roster grew, so did the amount of special rules associated with the vehicles interactions did. So I guess this is just another way of compensating for how everything's shaken out there, for sure.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting.
It makes it easier for them. Just in the long run.
And it'll be interesting to see if they make these changes or some changes to the other vehicles as well due to the unstoppable. Anything else of note? I didn't notice anything from as far as hero changes from PTR to live. Oh, this Dragon Blade no longer benefits from cooldown reduction on Nano Boost, which we knew was a bug, but it is good they fixed that before they made it to live.
It is good to fix that. Let's talk about Volskaya a little bit.
Okay.
It's really fun. You were mentioning a little bit of it earlier. I think since we were making the Hanamura comparison, they're both Overwatch maps, and it does have elements of things that were introduced in Hanamura, like some of the non-pushing merc camps with the pickups, but they've really refined it a lot, which makes me hopeful for Hanamura when it comes back. And I love the mix of, there are some camps that push in this, But then there's also the turret camps, and then there's also the healing camp, and now you can't bribe it. So the single stack of bribe doesn't just become ridiculously strong. There's only one support camp, and so it's not something that's easily picked up by both teams constantly. It's got the singular objective. You got your lane pushes, you can get your stuff done, but then it's got something that brings everybody together for a big team fight. There's a big objective, and that's, I think, what a good Heroes map is.
Yeah.
Like it just brings everybody together. You do the objective. The robot is actually pretty cool. I don't know. I need to play a few more games. It feels a little, even like mid game, it feels a little lacking damage wise, or siege damage wise, for taking up 2 people to be in it to get like the most out of the abilities. I love the little hand thing that can disable buildings. You can use that to some really good effect as you're pushing. So maybe that was the point, and maybe it's not supposed to be necessarily the big siege thing in and of itself like Dragon Knight is or something like that. But I mean, overall, like, it's got a sweet look. I love the conveyor belts.
Yeah.
There's going to be some really cool stuff. They came out. It's also got a sandbox mode. They came out with a sandbox mode for it in custom, which bodes really well for next year's Charity Brawl.
Yeah, for sure.
Already thinking of things. So that overall, like I think it's a slam dunk for the most part. They've really, it's a 3-lane map. People really seem to like the 3-lane versus the 2-lane, for multiple reasons. And I think this is something we could potentially see in competitive.
Yep,
I mean, not that we probably shouldn't be seeing the rest of the maps in competitive, honestly. And we've talked about that a little bit. But if they continue the current system where the pros pull in the maps they want to play, I could see this being one that gets pulled in.
It's an interesting thing to me, and we've had some discussion in our Discord and stuff on, someone thinks it's snowbally potentially, while others think, the mech is possibly a little weak. And again, this is a small sample size. It's going to take a couple weeks for us to figure things out. But something I noticed from the PTR, and I'm intrigued to find out, is really what's going to be the best use of the mech. Because like you said, it's not the greatest sieging thing, and I don't know if it was in the highlight video or where they were talking about how it is more PvP. Like it's a really good fighting mech, and which makes sense because it takes up 2 people. But my one worry about this map is, okay, well then the counter to it is not investing a lot of people in it to stop this thing, because they already have 2 people in it. It doesn't push super hard, so just kind of play safe, melt it down, wait for the timer to wear out while the rest of the team goes and continues to soak, with possibly a man advantage in a lane because they have 2 people stuck in that mech. So, and that's going to take a while to figure out what the correct kind of meta is on this map. So,
for sure,
which is always really fun to kind of see the strategy behind it form, and if people are right or wrong and all that crazy stuff that's going on.
Sure. And we found in the few games I've played with it, it seems to excel much more if it's not a split push vehicle, like potentially Dragon Knight or the Garden Terror. It benefits much more if your the other 3 people of your team are with you, because it does have things it can do to buff the rest of your team, like the big shield AoE,
Makes
and
sense.
The leap and slow, and the big AoE orb, and the little Gatling gun and the laser. It seems, like you said, like much more of a PvP thing, and we got much better use out of it whenever we were fully pushing with it as a team, rather than it just kind of doing its own thing.
Yeah, it's almost like it's not pushing, your team's pushing, and you in the mech are providing the support in the front line for your team.
And
which
disabling
is a cool thing.
the buildings.
Disabling buildings, yeah.
Plus,
exactly.
the mech itself, the abilities have just some really cool mechanics in them. Like you're talking about, the machine
Right.
gun follows your cursor. It has the vector drawing for the laser. They just combined a lot of cool stuff, and it feels really good. So, and plus conveyor belts we talked about last week.
Oh, yeah.
They're amazing. I think that's a brilliant idea in a MOBA. So
For sure.
I would love to see, because of the conveyor belts in a future map, like some sort of like river like slide mechanic. I guess slide is the best term I can think of for this.
So like
Like a
conveyor
river
belt,
where
but
you'll
like
go
a
in, but it's one way.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
You can't go
Fight
out
in
the other
middle
way.
of this river.
Yeah.
Could be interesting.
Or like, yeah, like you're forced down into it into a pile of the other or the rest of the team, or
They could
like,
also
this is
do
my
a-
only escape, but it's going towards the enemy base. And
Right.
it's a slide. I don't know.
They could also do crazy stuff in brawls. Think about like super high speed conveyor belts and stuff that they could do in brawls. It could be very interesting.
That'd
Yeah.
be cool in sandbox mode, adjusting conveyor belt speeds.
Yes, for sure, for sure.
That's that. And speaking of this, it's not BlizzCon wish list quite yet. But just speaking of this, I would love to see more maps in sandbox mode, more controls, and most of all, I would love to see all the buttons and knobs being able to be solely controlled by the observer or observer referees.
Yeah.
To where you could run a tournament where no one else had access to the special stuff except for the observers.
Yeah.
I think that'd be huge.
Yeah, for sure.
For sure.
But I want to give my 2 cents on Volsky real quick here. So back to that real quick. And it's just that, I feel like earlier I said that this feels like a Heroes map more than anything. And I think the reason is because they've pulled elements from a few different maps together and put it in a way that just feels right for Heroes. So like, when you think about it, if anything, the map has a lot in common with Infernal Shrines in the sense that you have the 3 points that you're fighting over collapsing on at any given time. But when you get there, you're doing different things. You're not killing the little skeleton guys. You're just trying to stand on the point, which has similarities to other maps. And then, with some of the crossover of some push camps versus some that are more like from Hanamura, just pulls in elements from Hanamura there, frankly. And so I just think that there's not really, other than, frankly, the conveyor belts, there's nothing super new here in the just base sense of we're fighting over this point so we can get something that helps us push or team fight. And that's okay. Honestly, if it's that simple on even maps moving forward, as long as they change it up continually like they're doing here and just making it interesting and flavorful and fun, I'm totally okay with more maps that are also similar but pulling in different elements as well, too, instead of just a totally new idea like Hanamura.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's kind of where their best maps have come from implementing on existing ideas, but expanding on them just to
for sure.
make them more theme, which has been really good. All right, so our next little topic we want to talk about here is just little tips and tricks section. So we've discussed, and we do these typically at the end of a hero of the week, what our tips are for that hero, just aside from just, here's a cool build that works for new players. And we never really go back and touch on those heroes. Plus, we've done a few a long time ago, like map strategies, which we try and do when new maps come out. They just don't come out as even. But things change, and we don't get a chance to go back and revisit all the heroes. So on potentially slower news weeks and stuff, we want to be able to provide you guys with some more tips and tricks. And so I guess we'll just kind of go around here from what you guys have been playing the past couple weeks, hammering out some new things you've learned. TBK, what you got?
I think my tips are gonna this episode are gonna revolve more around tank stuff because I have been doing a lot of warriors lately. And first off, and you're gonna hear this probably from a lot of pro tank people, if you want to learn how to warrior, pick up Diablo. You can carry games with Diablo. You can carry Hero League with Diablo. Diablo's an all-in. And all-in tanks are really good in a lot of ways, especially when you're learning to tank, because they will teach you very quickly what your limits are, what your positioning is, because it's one of those, you go in and you don't have an escape. It's like, it's in some ways it's like Garrosh a little bit, except he's got a little more options as far as pulling from the back. But Diablo is basically initiate. Okay, I'm here. Artanis, initiate. Okay, I'm here.
The Haka,
And
in
yeah,
some circumstances.
potentially. And so there's a few tanks like that, and those are the really good ones to learn on, because you'll be able to learn your limits as far as when you should go in, where you should position, and then tanking combos too. You really want to think about this when you're putting your team comps together, when you're in your draft. What is going to combo well with my tank? Because if I'm playing a tank like Garrosh or something like that, who has no base initiate other than run up to them, especially if your Q misses, then you're going to want to team with people who can do your CC for you, like the Malfurion roots, like a Azul Bone Prism, like anything that can isolate those heroes or slow them down to allow you to get up there where you need to be. There's multiple types of tanks too. You've got your engagers like the Diablo and such, and then you have more your peelers, I guess, would be like Johanna. She got a rework recently. It's got a lot of interesting stuff in it. I haven't gotten to play around with it enough to judge, like, is this stronger or weaker than she used to be, but it does give you a lot of interesting options at the very least. She's one of those types of tanks that is not necessarily going to be all the way up far away in everybody's face. She's going to be kind of hanging around your line a little bit, disrupting people so that they can't get to your back line. She's got a lot of tools to slow, a lot of tools to grab, stun, blind, and you're going to be that person who's going to make sure that no one gets on your back line, whereas other tanks can go in and say, okay, I just charged in, I overpowered this guy, this is the target, kill, type thing. And then you have the combos, like I mentioned. We've been finding in our Team League games, especially recently, Tassadar Diablo, fantastic combo. Why? Because you, at post 10, you have a wall on demand that you can charge into to get your stun. Or in some cases, if you take your level 13 quest to build up your damage when you get the stun on terrain, which apparently might be bugged right now, just FYI.
In a good way or bad way?
In a bad way, like the damage, the extra damage isn't actually stacking.
Okay.
So I just saw that on the Heroes subreddit today, so I was kind of wondering what was going on yesterday with that. But I mean, in general, like, you have a decent task with you, you're duoing or something like that, that's an amazing combo, because Task kind of fits with any team right now anyways, for the most part. He's a great secondary support, and as we all know, double support comps are very popular, especially with Ana coming in. She has some pretty good damage builds. She has some decent healing, but as we've talked before, it's healing that may be harder to get where you want it to, especially in team fights and such. And so she could work extremely well in one of those double support comps. So that wall on demand with your Diablo, you can really get a lot of combo stuff off of that. Other combo stuff. And since we're talking about warriors, I know the core guys hate me for this. Let's talk about Twin Blade Varian, because Twin Blade Varian is love and life, and it is an absolutely amazing thing. You know, if you take it, don't listen to the people who hate. You just mute them and you move on and do your Twin Blade things. He's an amazing merker, but he pairs especially well with Abathur.
Are you talking solo tank here? Is this just to verify, are you saying
Okay,
are you TBK Ryan TBK Zord reader saying that it is okay to solo twin blades with an Abathur?
Normally, you would like to have another warrior on your team if you go twin blades, because got to suck all the fun out of everything. But normally, you want another warrior if you're going to go twin blades of some sort. But with the twin blades Abathur combo, it can make you incredibly tanky. So you basically take your High King's Quest for your extra damage at 1. You take your shield wall at 4. You take your healing at 7. And then you take your twin blades at 10. Abathur, on the other hand, he takes the slow on stab. He takes the attack speed when he's got a symbiote on you. And there's a few other things he can kind of do. And together, that supplement makes you pretty ridiculous as far as being able to clear merc camps, being able to solo or even duo people who are not expecting the amount of attack speed, the amount of lifesteal, plus the Abathur shields and healing that come off of it. And then sometimes even the slow coming out from the spine that he shoots. And it gives him a great opportunity to chase people down even easier. It can work really well, and I've run a lot of really fun games with it. It's got to be the right comp, but that's just another fun one.
I'll tell you what, we already have a really solid title for this show because of the interview. But gosh darn it, if it was any other episode, it would be titled TBK says solo twin blade variants. Okay.
I clarified it. If it were up to me, you could twin blade variant whenever your heart desired. But it's not the world we live in. It's just not the world we live in. Unless you're in a 5-stack and you just say, screw it, guys. This is what's happening. And I've done it before, and it's worked out really well. And sometimes it hasn't worked out super well, but they were warned beforehand at the beginning of the game, and so we'll just leave it at that.
Okay, I'm flabbergasted here. I can't believe it just happened. I don't know. Now I'm gonna have to try it, and people are gonna yell at me. I don't know. I'll go next. Mine's gonna be a little short and sweet this week, just because with starting a new job, I haven't had a ton of time, so I don't have anything wide this week. I just want to talk about a couple heroes I've been playing, mostly one hero that I've been playing as of late, in Hero League at least. My carry, because a lot of times people get forced into the warrior role, which is good for, Brian's tips, TBK's tips I just talked about. We have Justin here in just a few minutes that'll talk about a few things. But I have decided to just embrace that role, even though it's not my best, and practice the crap out of it. Because there are a couple warriors that you can carry with, I think, in Hero League and have a really big impact, even bigger than some of the assassin roles or carry roles. And my main go-to, and I'm pretty sure I've mentioned this before on the show, is Dahaka right now. Because of what he brings as far as survivability. He can have 3 health bars in a team fight with no help. Soloing somebody out from the enemy team that says hey, kill this person target, and split soak, which is amazing. The things you need to do if you want to play Dahaka in Hero League, though, because a lot of people don't like him as a solo warrior. I think he's fine as a solo warrior on some maps, most maps, and depending on comp a little bit. But every time I get into a Hero League game with Dahaka, I want to, prepare my team for what I'm going to do. So if we have another bruiser, and this is preferably for larger maps, or Dragonshire is fine too, because of the capture points and the globals always being strong on that. If we have another bruiser like Sonya, I love pairing up with the Sonya. Just preparing your team to say, hey, I'm going to be late to the objectives. So just kind of play safe, poke for a little bit, let you get the soak, and you will want to hang out there as long as you can. Keep an eye on the team fight to go up, capture, and join the team fight whenever you're getting some experience lead here. If you don't have another bruiser warrior on your team, that's okay as well. Still, team play super safe and rotate up a little sooner. You will find a lot of times in games, people are going to pick up on this. Obviously, it's Dahaka. It's what he's well known for. And they'll keep somebody down in lane with you. In those situations, you want to find somebody else on your team that has good wave clear. And in that case, I just ping them. I immediately go up to the objective. So now that we have a warrior, and somebody else pulls off and goes into lane to soak. That way, I'm not staying down there, and now my team's at an objective with no warrior to engage or help out in the fight and be that sponge. And that has worked out super well as far as experience leads going into the mid game to late game and picking off kills. And he's just a super fun hero, and he has sweet robot skins, and he has a pink skin now, I guess.
He's got a diva skin.
Oh man, I gotta get. Is that the mech? It's mech, isn't it? A pink mech.
Yeah, it is. And Multi's trying to talk, but he's muted.
Multi's trying to talk. He unplugged his mic because there was a little bit of popping. You may need to just select the correct recording source again. We'll see. It's my fault.
You can keep talking now.
Yes. And the other hero, which I probably should not be giving advice on yet because I'm still working on it to not bring into Hero League, but it's some things I've noticed because I hadn't played this hero in so long. And I hadn't played him in a long time. He's still my second most played hero, and that's Kel'Thas.
I do love some good Kel'Thas.
Yeah. And I literally had not played him since the Cyberhawk skin came out until I picked him up again a few weeks ago.
It's a good
It
one.
had been that long. And he's still my second most played hero. So like with the, of course, what's the talent, the stacking?
Convection.
Convection.
Hot tip.
Yes.
Because it's Kel'Thas. Hot tip. Convection is mostly a trap talent.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
You don't like it?
It totally is. I like it situationally. It can be really good 2-lane maps when you're in that 4-man. It gives you more ability to stack it. But I almost all the time, unless for some reason it's a 2-lane map or they have no one that can get to me, like dive me or get to me, will take Mana Addict. Because not only does it fix a lot of his mana issues, because you get a bunch of extra mana, once you finish your quest, you also get an on-demand shield, which is incredibly important for him if you get stuck in a bad situation or you get dived.
Okay. I can agree with some of that. So I don't like taking it on maps like Warhead or Towers of Doom, strictly for the fact that of the randomness and split of a team. So there's still randomness in maps like Cursed, but if you have a good front line and stuff, anything where a team is meeting up and you can get those stacks, I still kind of like it. But it is much easier on the short or smaller maps and 2-lane maps. But, and this may seem like an obvious tip, don't die. I don't know how many times it
if
took
you
me.
take Convection, yeah, you
My
definitely
gosh.
don't die.
So, and I'm an aggressive player, and so when I went back to him, it was one of the more frustrating experiences I've had in Heroes, trying to relearn him just with Convection, because I'd get so close to being complete, I don't know how many times, and lose it. So it's kind of along the same lines of KT, now that we're getting all these quest things. That takes priority. Kills do not take priority. They're nice if they're free, but you can worry about those later. The quicker you get that quest done, the better edge you're going to have if that's the build you're going. So just be patient, be safe, and, wait for people to present opportunities. Because more than likely, there's at least one person on their team who is what I like to call a flame strike magnet. And if you are playing against me in your KT, that is me. If you see Gizmo Zord, just throw flame strikes on me because they will hit me every single time. I will walk into them. I will walk out and then back into them just so you can get your stacks. And I don't know why. So find that person and use those. But mainly go with my Dahaka tips today because those are the better ones. Multi his mic is still not working.
Nope.
I broke him.
You broke him.
Um,
So we might have to get his tips another day. But we have an interview coming up.
We do. So let's go to that. Maybe Mike will be fixed after, and then we can get his tips. Hopefully, we'll figure something out.
We'll figure something out.
But let's go ahead and get on into the HGC. All right, TBK. HGC.
Yeah, so this is super exciting. We got a lot of good feedback from the Mikey Doll interview that we did 2 weeks ago. And so I was able to get Justin, the Warrior player from World 20 Esports, on to talk to us for a little bit and just kind of get his thoughts on Warrior stuff and HGC and BlizzCon coming up. So hope you enjoy.
Absolutely. And here we go.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to HGC Talk. We did some interviews a few weeks ago, and thankfully, we've been blessed with the opportunity to do it again. We've got Justin here from Roll20, and we're going to talk to him about NA and BlizzCon and just tanking stuff in general. So, Justin, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So I think I just want to start out with kind of the obvious things. First, congrats for starting off as first seed for BlizzCon. That's like super huge. It's really cool to have seen you guys just move up so much over the course of the year.
It's really awesome to be first seed finally. It feels good.
Yeah.
We were so close the last 3 times that this split, getting it's really satisfying.
Yeah, I can imagine. You guys have had just some fantastic series. So to start off, kind of tell us what are you guys going to be doing to prep for BlizzCon? And it's kind of a bonus thing. Who is your guess for who will make that last third slot from NA?
We're pretty much doing the same thing that we have been doing, which is about 6 hours of scrims each day. We do like 2 3-hour blocks. That's usually our normal setup with an hour break in between. What we might be doing now is we might be taking like 1 day a week off just to have like a little bit less of a schedule, but otherwise not really lightening up on the schedule at all. Pretty much just still going hard. For the person that is going to qualify, I think it's going to be likely Gale Force, just because they tend to prepare really well for matches when they have a lot of time and they know who they're facing. They actually put in a lot of prep work, which I'm not so sure how the other teams do things, because it doesn't seem like Tempo's obviously been that good at that, considering their LAN performances. And like, if it were up to me, if I could just choose one, I think I'd want SSG to go, or even SSS, just because I feel like they'll actually benefit more from the experience of going to BlizzCon. I feel like they would probably get more out of it than Tempo or Gale Force, just because there's less diehard veterans on those 2 teams.
Yeah. Are you guys hoping to do like an in-person boot camp before BlizzCon? Do you find those really help you to get the team all in one spot?
Yeah, we're definitely looking to do that. We had done it for a pretty big one for Sweden, and it was like a whole week, which kind of seemed like it might have been a little bit too much. So we might do a little bit less than that, especially because there's no time zone difference. It's here in the USA, so that's a good thing for us that there's no time zone differences. So we'll probably be
you
there
won't have the jet lag.
Yeah, it's so bad. Like when we were in Poland, I was like almost falling asleep during one of our games. Like, it's like such a difference in time zone. But we'll probably
rough.
Probably go like 5 days early, maybe like 6 days. Do a little mini boot camp.
Awesome. Greg?
Yeah, so I just kind of, and thankfully you guys don't find yourself in this situation, but get your thoughts on kind of the stepladder format that's coming up here for playoffs. I know over Twitter and stuff, I've kind of seen 50-50 on people that like it or dislike it. I personally think it's easier to watch, more enjoyable, has potential for better storyline if the fifth seed's able to make it all the way up. But as a player in the HGC that has the potential to end up playing in these in the future, do you like the step ladder, or would you like to see a different format?
I think it's probably the best setup they can have because I don't like the idea of like once you get to the finals in the tournament, how if like the team in the winners bracket just gets like the extra game in the match. I don't really like that as much as if they did something like that. I feel like that would be worse. So I actually like the stepladder format because that's how we got in for Sweden. I think we had to beat Gale Force, and they were seeded higher than us. I'm pretty sure that was how it happened. But I remember playing in we had to qualify for one of them through the bubble up playoff format, and I definitely like it because like I feel like it's the best way to ensure that the best team is gonna go. Because if you are in the last place and you just stomp through each set, then obviously you deserve it. Like, go ahead. I think it's probably the best way to do it.
Yeah, for sure. And then it also rewards the teams that have been playing consistently well throughout the season with that having to win less games instead of just one team showing up hot.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's nice.
The only downside I can see from it is, I guess, hypothetically, since there's no compensation for anything above first or second, like from HTC directly, like you get first and second get like a little bonus for their like split for the like a salary for the split, but everyone else beyond that doesn't. So the only downside I could see is if there was a team that knew they weren't going to get first or second, but also knew that they were just by far the best, like third best team, they could basically just like sack all of their matches in HGC and then just like crush everyone in the playoffs. That's like the only downside I could see to it, but that's not really a thing right now, at least.
Okay. Multi?
Okay, so looking forward to BlizzCon. So what is your view on the top teams from the rest of the regions, and what will NA need to do to take a series from them or even win it all?
I think that MVP and Fnatic are just probably above everyone else there. I think realistically, I think that'll likely be the finals. I think everyone else besides that, for the most part, can probably take games off of each other. And at least if everything's how it is right now, assuming teams don't like improve or get worse or like have team issues and stuff like that, I think our team, I can't speak on like all of NA, but I think our team should have like a pretty decent shot in taking, hopefully for the first time, like whole series against EU teams or Korean teams. I think as long as we're not against either Fnatic or MVP Black, we can easily take sets against teams from other regions. I've been watching a lot of their games, and they don't really look too strong to me, aside from those two that I mentioned.
All right.
Yeah, and that would be pretty awesome. I mean, even just seeing NA get into the top 4 is just, I mean, we've been making big improvements even throughout the whole year. It seems like the league system, just the whole HGC league system, has really upped the game for the most part across the board. Would you kind of agree with that?
Yeah, I think so for sure. I think that was kind of shown with the teams that people like when they did the power rankings, how everyone thought like us and Freedom were going to be like in the dumpster, like at like 7th and 8th. And then it turns out like once we get to this point, just because of like how much everyone gets, like there's structure, like compared to last year where there was like 4 LANs the whole year for the top 8 teams. Like there was like you improve so much faster, like everyone. So it's the people who like are actually like really working for it and are like actually dedicated to improving. Those are the teams like us and Freedom that are actually now in like first and second seed, as opposed to it's no longer like the veteran players that are just staying at the top.
Which is great. That's
format,
good for the scene.
Yeah, the league format forces you to get better, basically, to compete with the other people, which is why I think like all the new team, like the teams of the newer players are just by far better. Like all the veteran players, for the most part, the diehard veterans seem to be kind of hitting like a ceiling compared to the newer players.
Yeah, for sure. Let's shift gears just a little bit and talk about the game itself. I'm wondering your thoughts right now on the current the current meta kind of in general, but specifically the NA meta, what you like, what you dislike. It seems like the current meta has been very favorable for you guys.
I think it seems that way because we're winning, but I actually think that in general, because I think the current meta right now is mostly double support with a single ranged carry. Honestly, I think for us, this is probably the meta couldn't be any worse.
Really?
Yeah, right now we have. I think the reason it seems that way just because we're winning, but we're not winning necessarily because it's everyone's on their best roles. Like we pretty much like Glarung had to pretty much learn ranged, and Priz had to pretty much learn support just so that we could actually play what is meta. So a lot of teams maybe didn't have as rough of a transition, but you guys didn't see that. Like no one saw that because when we played against Even in Death, we had been practicing double support that whole week, and then we just used our old drafts. We didn't have like an optimal draft strategy for that week. It's part of the reason why we dropped the game to Even in Death, because we didn't want to show Gale Force that we'd been working on double support. But we took that whole week to just practice double support, and we just forced double support every single time in scrims. So we pretty much had to completely learn how to play that way, and we pretty much had to do basically like a whole role swap to do that. Glarung had to practice ranged almost exclusively, and Priz had to practice supports. Priz and Goku both had to practice supports almost exclusively.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. So what you're saying is we haven't seen your final form.
Pretty much. I'm really hoping. I really hope by the time we get to BlizzCon that the meta's changed a little bit, that it's shifted away from double support, because right now the double support meta is not the best. I think draft plays a much bigger role in the game right now than it maybe did previously.
It seems like Blizzard is kind of trying to push it out of that a little bit, but it'll be really interesting to see what Anna. Yeah, of course, Anna comes in and it's looking like she'll be like God second support.
Yeah.
So, it'll be interesting. Greg?
All right. So we talked about this a little bit last week. Whenever the Assault on Volskaya Foundry stream came out, Kent Eric Hagman was actually talking about potentially removing some RNG from Battlegrounds to help improve HGC. What is your opinion on that as a professional player? Would you like to know exactly, when or where tributes are going to spawn each time in a certain order, or Fields of Eternity, where the Angel and Demon's going to come down? Or do you kind of like the randomness and, adjusting on the fly for those maps?
I think some RNG is probably a good thing as long as it's like forewarned. Like if you know that first, if you, I guess if they give a bigger warning or like an earlier warning, then I think it's pretty much fine. That's part of the reason why we've been banning Cursed Hollow every single set in HGC, just because of the RNG. It's a certain team. It's basically a coin flip. Which team gets an early lead, just because whether the tribute is top or bottom, just because the way the map is set up with like I call the siege camp lobsters because they throw rocks for some reason. It's just because the song Rock Lobster. I don't know why. It's just they're lobsters, I guess. But the guys that throw the rocks, how they're on the top and the bottom, it's basically a coin flip on Cursed Hollow on the first one, whether you get an early lead or you don't. So stuff like that I dislike, but I feel if there was a bigger warning on it, then I think it's totally fine. If it's like told you just further ahead of time, this is how the RNG is playing out, so that you have time to prepare. I feel like if it's just instant, kind of like how it is on BOE or how it currently is pretty quick on Cursed, I don't really like that so much.
Okay. Well, so what about like Towers of Doom, where when the 3 spawns are going to be, but it still leaves a little bit of randomness in between those?
I think that's fine because it makes so the game is less static and your strategies have to be slightly more dynamic. Every game doesn't feel the same, which is one of the reasons why I like Heroes compared to other MOBAs is besides just the diversity of the maps. So every game isn't just always the same on the same map. Also within the maps, I do kind of like a little bit of RNG in that sense because every game doesn't play out the exact same way. I think on those maps it works, or on towers it works.
Yeah, that's a really good point, actually. I hadn't thought about that during this discussion. Just, being careful of if they go remove some of the randomness, then the game's starting to feel the same, and it's just kind of
Yeah.
So that's a good point. I like that. Multi.
Okay, so moving on to the warrior role specifically, I had a quick question for you. So, other than obviously survivability, what, in your opinion, makes for a good solo tank hero as opposed to like a bruiser or something like that?
I think if they have if they have good disruption, just in general, I think that's probably the biggest thing. Like if right now there is a lot of double tank, and if you're not running double tank, it's typically because you have an armor support that turns your Vol into a tank for some reason, which is something I don't really like.
Right.
But in an actual solo tank, what used to be the case was like ETC didn't actually work as a solo tank because you have to be able to protect your front line. So you have to be able to stand there to protect your front line. But if you're standing there to protect your front line, then you can't use your Q, and you can't get any value actually. Like your mosh pit would never get any value if you're just always having to stand in front of your back line, if you're always just being that meat wall. So I feel like in that sense, I'd rather have something like an Arthas or like a Joanna, like something that just has a lot of disruption on its own for real solo tanking, because you have to be able to get value from like both. You need to be able to peel for your carries and just like be that defense in the front, but also you need to be able to like actually affect their backline in some way and like put pressure on them in some way, because otherwise they'll just walk right past you.
Right.
Like, which is kind of the issue with how ETC used to be. If you tried to run him in a real solo tank setup, he just didn't work, because if you used your Q, you were out of position, and like you just have to be able to basically just stand your ground, which is why I think like Arthas and Joe are good examples of like true solo tanks.
Yep.
Yeah, for sure.
Speaking of Johanna, have you gotten to check her like moderate rework out on the PTR? And
No, I
not yet.
haven't gotten around to it yet. No,
I'm really interested
live.
to see if it'll bring her back, because we haven't seen hardly any Johanna lately.
I hope it does. I haven't really looked at the changes, so I can't comment too much on it, but hopefully they make her kit a little bit more interesting, I guess, because with Joe, it feels like, because we've picked her a little bit recently, at least in scrims. I don't think we picked it in HGC at all, or we picked it our last game in HGC.
Maybe she doesn't show up very often.
Yeah. But when you pick her, it typically feels like it's like a draft thing. It's like they picked a bunch of, like you just need like I don't know how to explain this. When you pick Joe in the right circumstance, it could be anyone playing the Joe pretty much. Like
Right.
when she's good, she's really good at what she does, at just being disruptive and like punishing melee heroes with blinds and stuff like that. But when it's the wrong time to pick her, she just doesn't do anything. So hopefully the changes address that a little bit.
Yeah, I'm really interested to see if that brings her back a bit. And kind of speaking of warriors, you're widely considered one of the top, if not the top, warrior player in NA right now. What tips would you give someone who's looking to pick up warrior to play or get better at it? And then, as an addendum to that, who would you currently recommend learning from a warrior perspective?
I think the thing that would probably help the most, depending on what your goals are, if your goals are like to be really good in Hero League, then I'd probably just play tank in Hero League as much as you can and practice like the high risk, high reward tanks. Like Diablo is a good example of that, where you have an engage, but you don't have a way to get out. So it's really punishing if you make a mistake. So a tank like that, or a tank like ETC, where you just can only go in, would be a good thing to practice if you're trying to just like test your limits and like understand like what you can do on tank and like what engages are good and what engages are bad, because then you'll get punished when it is a bad one. I think that would be what you'd want to practice. But in general, I think just watching watching professional players play it is probably the biggest thing. Like I remember months ago, like probably maybe like 6 months ago, I was watching, I went on Master League, I think, and I downloaded a replay and I just watched I don't remember who it was, but it was a Korean tank. It was probably Noblesse. I just watched him play tank, and I went into the replay because you can get him on Master League. It was a tournament game, and I literally just watched him from his perspective, like the whole game, and I was just trying to figure out like why he was doing what he was doing, and stuff like that helps like so much. I think replays are really beneficial. Otherwise, you could check out Ishbu just put out a guide. I think he's on Heroes Hearth, the amateur team that is poised to win in the Crucible. He just put out a guide, I think, on tank, and I've played with him before, and he has a lot of knowledge, so I would check that out also.
Awesome.
Very cool.
What did you say the name of that website was again, where you can download the replays?
Master League.
Master League. That's
.net,
a
I think.
It's been a community content shout out, Greg.
Yeah,
how
seriously.
many episodes ago? All right, I can't keep track.
It's seriously, if you guys have never been to Master League, it's amazing. Like it has literally, you can download the replays from all the tournaments. You can break down the stats. Like it's pretty incredible.
Okay. And Multi, your next question here is actually kind of falls more in line with the Warrior stuff still. So why don't you go ahead?
Sure. So, okay, it's a bit complicated, but I'll lay it out for you. Warriors and Heroes of the Storm seem to be getting pushed into various niches, especially since the introduction of physical armor versus spell armor. But of course, some have always been better on certain maps, better at initiation and escapes and whatever. So the question is, can you think of a niche role that is not currently being filled by any of the warriors currently in the game? And what would a future hero need to be able to do to fill that gap? Like, is there something you wish you could counter but currently can't? And there might be a future hero that could do it?
I think aside from a Nubarak, there isn't really much to punish mages. I would kind of like a hero that functions a little bit more like the only way you can really punish like mages right now with tanks is like dive heroes like a Nubarak, and I guess to some extent like Tyrael. But what would be kind of nice, I think, is if there was, I'm kind of like in my mind, I'm kind of like imagining like Reinhardt from Overwatch, but I really hope they don't put him in the game. But something like sort of like something kind of like that, where like instead of the way of protecting your team from the mage of just killing the mage, maybe something that actually protects your team from the mage's spells, like some kind of like spell reflect or something like that might be kind of interesting. Like a spell breaker type thing would be nice. I would like that a lot. Always wanted to reflect a pyroblast at a Kel'Thas.
All right, and I asked this to Michael Udall, and I just kind of want to get everyone's feelings on it. With this being the first season of HGC, what has been your favorite thing about this format, and what has been your least favorite thing that maybe you would like to see changed or something added on going into the next season?
My favorite thing has got to be just how it keeps everyone on their toes. There isn't much downtime. It's hard to even think about a year ago where there was just the 4 big tournaments, and in between that we would have like months where we just had nothing to do pretty much. There was no immediate goal to play for. So that's probably my favorite thing about HGC now is it keeps everyone really competitive. Everyone obviously grows way faster in this format. But the biggest thing is like there's always something to look forward to. You're always, every scrim you do, all your practice, it's very obvious what it's going towards. There isn't just insane downtime, which is something that I like a lot with this format. The only thing that I would improve, which is pretty obvious, is just having it be LAN. That would be ideal, just because playing tournament games that are hypothetically worth at some games, like the playoffs, for example, like hypothetically worth up thousands of dollars. If I feel like that it's kind of rough to have that be played online where there's ping, there's other factors that go into that. So that's probably the biggest complaint I'd have with the HGC format right now.
Okay. And
Well,
hopefully
they've got that arena now. So
yeah, hopefully that gets solved for next season. So
yeah.
TBK?
I'm trying to see if there were any other really good ones in here. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about Garage, because Garage is basically the newest kid on the block, and it seems like people are really still trying to figure him out, and you've had quite a bit of success with him. Can you just with him being still fairly new, can you just tell us a little bit about how you like to play him, and from a comp perspective, what you like to run with him? Because he can be very powerful, but he can also be, for a tank, very burstable as well.
I think Garrosh is kind of a fairly unique one. He's kind of like an Arthas or a Joanna in the sense that he's just really hard to kill and he doesn't have any mobility, but he's kind of like a cross between them and like Stitches, I guess. What he can do is you need to like manipulate your space really well. You have to recognize the size of your queue and play around that, because everyone should be fairly fearful. Like if you land the first queue in the game on a carry and you throw them, they'll learn pretty quick that they can't get in your queue range. So you have to manipulate your space really well because he has no mobility. So you have to just always look as menacing as possible, basically, to get value with him. And I think there's definitely a lot of counters to Garrosh, percent damage being one, mages being one. That's things that can outrange him but still hit him tend to make him feel pretty useless. I think he's actually really strong right now just because the double support meta. He has basically more effective HP than all the other tanks in the game because of his armor passive. That's another thing that you can take advantage of, is I don't really mind taking damage when I'm really high HP, because it kind of gives the illusion that you're weaker than you are, when in reality, obviously you're getting the more armor the lower you get, so you actually just become tankier the lower HP you are. So I don't really mind too much just kind of sitting at like 50% HP and just walking around with that and like kind of toying with my health bar, because I know I'm getting the armor. So it's kind of, he's definitely really unique in the way you have to play him. You have to recognize that, like, not overreact to your health bar and just accept that you're going to take damage, like way more damage when you're higher HP. Like I'd like yell at my support for healing me when I'm like above like 80, like I'd be like 80% HP and Buds would like heal me and I'd be like, wait, you don't have to heal me, like save your mana, like wait till I get lower to heal me, because like I'm pretty much just taking damage on purpose because it's fine as long as I'm not in threat of actually dying. And I think his 4 talent, the cooldown reduction thing, I don't remember what it's called, but the thing that when you hit him you get more W's is really good, and that plays into how you play him like immensely. I think he feels way weaker without that talent. You can pretty much just get in the fight and just auto attack. As long as you're continuously auto attacking, you can pretty much just live forever with your W's.
Yeah. Do you normally like to take his basically unstoppable cleanse talent, just because it gives you another tool, or do you usually try and count on your supports for that?
That's usually what I want the auto attack thing for. I usually feel like if I can't use the 4 talent that gives me the W cooldown reduction, the battle momentum for his W, if I can't use that, I feel a lot weaker on the hero. Because I think if you can weave in auto attacks, and it kind of baits them really hard actually, because they don't expect you to be have as much sustain as you do. The only times I'd take the unstoppable is if I think I took it today actually, if you have like a medic or something that you really need to protect and the other team has like an ETC or something that has a lot of CC, if you know that the only way that you're going to be able to save your team or live is with the self cleanse, then it's good to take that. But in general, unless they have like a ton of CC, then I pretty much always want to go with the auto attack reset talent at 4.
Gotcha.
Okay. My last question here for you is, if you didn't have to worry about meta, composition, map, what would be your favorite warrior to play and why?
It's probably ETC. Everyone thought that Diablo was because we came out in the first split and like owned everyone with Medivh Diablo, but so everyone like knew me for playing Diablo, but I've been playing ETC since, like, I was playing ETC like a year and a half ago when all the other tank mains were just Murden one tricks. So as soon as they nerfed Murden, I was like, oh, it's my moment. It's my time to shine. Like I was playing ETC before it was cool, I guess. But I think ETC is by far my favorite, just because you always have, like, once you hit 10, the game is in your hands to win or lose.
True.
Not so much at like the highest competitive level because teams are usually pretty good about not clumping up and interrupting mosh pit. But at least in Hero League, I would as soon as I would literally like I remember playing Hero League like a year ago and I'd like type to my team, I'd be like, just try to play safe until 10 and we win at 10. And like if my team didn't die and we got to 10 even, I'd be like, all right, we can win now. And then I just mosh them all and just win the game.
Yeah.
It's really nice to have that. Like it's really satisfying too to just hit like a 5-man mosh or just a big mosh.
Oh yeah.
And you can count all their interrupts and like make sure that you get them in it, and it's just super satisfying.
For sure. As someone who's played a ton of ETC games myself, it really threw me for a loop when they did the last big update to his trait.
Yeah.
And I've never it feels like his trait feels super awkward now.
Yeah, I hated him when they first did that.
And so I kind of wanted to get, because my feedback ever since he got changed is that attack speed, fine, whatever. That's fine, get rid of that. But I feel like I would like another trait on ETC that synergizes with this kit more, since you really only should be necessarily using one of his abilities on demand to get the armor, and then the rest just kind of come whenever you need the ability, not necessarily when you need the armor. So what do you think of his trait, or his new trait since the change, and would you do something different with that?
When they first changed it, I really hated it and I didn't want to play the hero at all. And yeah, I just had like a really hard time playing him with the new trait. I thought they just kind of ruined him and I didn't like it at all. The more I've played it, I don't mind it so much now. I think it's kind of okay. It forces you to use your E in a more intelligent way, because you have to use your E now mostly like for armor.
Yeah.
So you have to
sure.
like consciously be thinking about that, and it also changes a little bit how you use your W. I actually think it's like kind of broken on him, to be honest, because it feels less punishing now because you get the armor when you slide in. I kind of miss his old play style, when the reason that he used to be like so exciting and fun to me was it used to be ETC forced the teams into like a DPS race, basically, because he would slide and he would basically switch positions with whoever. So everyone on their team would hit the ETC and everyone on your team would hit whatever the ETC slid. So it just came down to like a DPS race, and basically whoever had more damage, or pretty much just whoever had more damage just won, and one of them would die pretty much. And that's not really the case anymore. He's a lot less punishing now. If you slide in and you get the armor, you just kind of don't die. So I kind of wish, and now he's like first picked in most games, which kind of sucks.
It is weird. It was just kind of out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Like he got changed. No one played him. And then all of a sudden and I mean, maybe because of the double support,
I think
brought
that
him
is
back
why.
in a little more, just because his health was so incredibly nerfed, and the
Yeah.
extra sustain really just pushed him to the top or something.
Yeah, I think that is why. I think part of it is people figured out how busted his 13 talent is, the W reset. And also it was bugged for a long time. Most people probably don't know this, but when you take the big W at 4, that makes the talent at 4, that makes your W bigger. And then you take the 13 talent that reduces the cooldown of your W when it hits heroes. That used to be bugged for a really long time. So even if you took the 4 talent, you wouldn't actually get cooldown reduction on your W unless it hit them in the center, like as if you didn't take the 4 talent. So they fixed that. So that's part of it. That's why everyone was taking Encore, the double
Gotcha.
W at 13. That was why. Another reason for it, I think the biggest reason, is just double support meta. Double support meta makes armor on tanks pretty broken, because if you have all that sustain all the time, having armor on your tank baseline just gives them way more effective HP than on a tank that doesn't have it. So every heal on ETC is going to be 20% better than every heal on anything else that doesn't have armor, pretty much. Although almost all the tanks have armor now, I guess.
Yeah.
In some
Sure, they're
kind,
starting
yeah.
to. But no,
Yeah.
that's really interesting. I've been wanting to kind of get thoughts on that, because it did seem kind of sudden, but the correlation makes a lot of sense, just because he got so squishy, but then 2 supports come in, or a support and like a Medivh or something like that, things to basically keep him alive.
Yeah.
And so then he can thrive again because his kit's just inherently pretty decent.
Yeah.
Okay.
For sure.
All right.
Multi.
Last question.
Yep.
Okay. So, which hero do you want to see added to the Nexus most, and why? Like of all the Blizzard universes.
Oh, this is an easy one. I want a pit lord. I think that's what they're
Ooh,
called.
okay.
Like a Manaroth or something. One of those guys.
Yeah.
Would
Would you
think
want him
he'll
to
be
be
a
a
tank.
warrior?
Yeah, he'll be a tank. Walk around with the big sword thing that he has. It's not a sword, but I don't know what it is. I want
Crazy
one of
double
those.
spear thing.
Yeah.
That'd be
That's
cool.
what I want.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
You didn't
a
say
Manaroth
dragon.
would
That's
be
good.
sweet.
We can't have everyone wanting what TBK wants. So, any
Dragons are cool. Dragons are cool.
They're cool.
So are Pit Lords.
Yeah, pit lords are cool too.
Yeah. Do you have anything else, TBK, or?
No, I think we covered all our stuff pretty much. Thank you, Justin, so much for coming on. We appreciate the insight and the info.
Thanks for having me. It's been fun.
Yeah, and
yeah.
good luck to you guys as well. As BlizzCon is what are we, like a month and a week away now or something?
Yeah, like
5
5.5
weeks, yeah.
weeks. 5
5
weeks.
Gosh, it's coming up fast. So it's gonna be awesome. Playoffs are coming up here soon, so we'll see who ends up getting third seed, and then I think you guys start playing. What is it, like a week before BlizzCon or something like that?
I think groups are on start in like pretty much exactly a month. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Wow, that's awesome.
Well, good luck
Well,
for sure.
Yeah, good luck.
Thanks.
We'll be rooting for you. Get some NA. We need some NA victories over Europe this time around.
Gotta put an end to that meme.
I know.
EU NA memes.
We would appreciate that very much.
too.
Well, we appreciate you coming on. Thank you so much. Good luck to you, and we will hopefully catch you again sometime after BlizzCon.
See you
Thanks
at
a lot.
BlizzCon.
Yeah,
All right.
at BlizzCon. A few of us will be there.
All right. So thanks again to Justin and Roll20 for the interview there. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it as much as we enjoyed doing it, and it's been a blast being able to bring you guys a couple insights from some of the professional players.
I love hearing from them.
Yeah, and I thought it was really interesting.
I love hearing from Multi too.
Can
you hear me now?
He's back. He's
Oh,
back.
sweet. I can stay for the rest of the episode.
I loved the difference in opinion on the current meta between him and Udall from our last time, because Udall just talking about how he loved the current meta and thought it was in a really good spot, and while it's currently kind of working for Roll20 Esports,
It's
not
good.
their thing.
I found that very interesting, that dichotomy there.
Yeah.
But yeah, he made sense of
It's
it,
really
though.
funny. Yeah, he did. And if you, speaking of that too, if you want to hear more from Justin, the Heroes Power Hour podcast also had an interview from him, and they recorded on Tuesday. So you can check them out if you want to hear more from him as well.
All right. Well, TBK, what do we got? Else do we got with HGC talk this week? And then we'll go back to Multi since he's back for his tips and tricks.
We got a few cool things, actually. Wish Esports welcomes Team Zealots. So Team Zealots got sponsored, which is pretty cool. I think they're either the last or next to last European team that didn't have a sponsor. So that's pretty awesome. And you might be asking yourself, what the heck is a Wish Esports? Well, it's brand new. It did not exist before. Wish is actually like an online e-commerce shopping app / website.
Interesting.
And apparently some of the execs are big Heroes fans and big esports fans. And so they, just like Roll20, actually, they decided to brand and pick up a team.
I love that. It's
Really
really cool.
cool that Blizzard is allowing this. And then not only that, these other, I guess non-gaming things are jumping in just because these high-level people in the companies really like gaming.
Yeah, and it's a great opportunity too. While Heroes is kind of still in its infant stages as an esport, um, to get in on it. So that's really cool that it's fans getting in on the front lines and creating these organizations to help support the players. So
Sure. And if you
For
think
sure.
about it, this is great, really promotion for them because
Uh-huh.
when big esports scenes come in, it's kind of like Tempo Storm, Cloud9, Fnatic, whatever. When these smaller orgs come in, especially to like a Heroes type game, it's big news. And
Oh,
so
yeah.
for them, this really kind of does twofold. Not only do they get to jump in and start and sponsor this team, but this team now has their logo and their brand on it, which is not just an esports brand.
Mm-hmm.
It's a shopping commerce thing that the age range or the gamers might want to go look at. And now it's tied to esports with Roll20. We've seen even some of the Roll20 guys or some of the Heroes players start doing D&D campaigns, and they've been streaming them using Roll20. And so it's kind of like a dual branding thing almost.
Uh-huh. Agreed.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just sneezed. Oh, I was about to say excuse me, but then no one would have known
Yeah.
what it was for.
Right.
Oh, okay, I'm good. I'm good now.
It's kind of like good.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say that kind of reminds me of, I don't know if you heard the episode of Lagging Balls where this just belched in the middle of it. Like, you're just bringing some flavor, so making this more human. That's all good.
Just give you that little jump scare while you're in the car on your way to work.
Yeah, exactly. Please don't crash.
Loudly. Yeah. We love you. Standings wise, so most of the stuff has been decided now. Roll20 Esports, Team Freedom already secured in the finals for NA. Gale Force will have the highest seed going into the large playoff section. Tempo Storm under them, Space Station Gaming under them, and then Superstars will have the biggest ladder to climb if they want to take it all. Lag Force and Even Death will be going to the Crucible on the NA side. On the EU side, we have Fnatic and Dignitas, of course, right now in the finals. Team Expert managed to grab that top seed for the ladder playoffs, followed by Tricked, Team Liquid, and then Team Wish now, which is really cool for Team Wish, which was formerly Zealots, because they came in as a Crucible team.
Mm-hmm.
And so they actually have a decent record. I mean, if you look at the actual standings, Team Expert has an 8-6 record, but Tricked has a 6-8 record, Liquid has a 6-8 record, and Team Wish now has a 6-8 record. So Europe is extremely close. I mean, even the Playing Ducks, which are in the Crucible with Team Good Guys, the Playing Ducks even have a 5-9 record. So it just shows how extremely even, other than Fnatic, the whole EU side of things was. So I'm really excited to watch those playoffs. And then of course, remember, this week we've got our playoffs going on this weekend, but next weekend is Crucible. And that could be really, really interesting because we've got a bunch of new teams coming in from the Open Division. We even have some teams, Bushido Esports on the European side, that are already sponsored in hopeful preparation to get into HGC. We mentioned that Heroes Hearth has sponsored a great group of guys that has been doing extremely well in the Open Division, and they're pretty much forecasted to grab one of the NA Crucible spots as well. So that's really cool for them. And that's just another example of like the Roll20 thing. It's still Heroes related, but it's just a social media Heroes site. But now their brand is, if the team gets into HGC, is going to be plastered everywhere.
Yeah.
They're going to be in game.
Which is amazing. And I was just talking about on Twitter this week how I really need to start using that site more because it is an amazing site. But that's
is.
Crowan, McIntyre, Arthalon, and I don't remember the other two players, but Arthalon back in
know.
Heroes. So
Isn't that crazy? But yeah, so
Bunch
that
of names we recognize.
so that's just really cool thing. We should sponsor an open division team. It's good enough to get into the HGC Crucible. Then we could get a Zord. We could get a Zord banner in game.
That's right.
I love
Our
this
T-Rex on a tank with
Yeah.
the old Zord
eagle
meme
on top.
thing.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
Google the Zord Lords. Put a Z at the end of Lords. You'll figure out what we're talking about. You can still search for
Does it actually come up?
It does.
That's amazing. Go check that out. Unless you're in your car, wait until you park, guys.
Yeah.
Wait until you park and then do it.
Wow, it's the
But yeah,
first image.
like-
Okay. Sorry. Not
Wouldn't
starting
that,
this
wouldn't that be fun? Wouldn't that be fun? A Zord team.
Mhm.
We'll have to think about
Yes, it
it.
would.
We'll think about the branding so we can get a sweet Zord spray and banner in game. That would, I don't know, that would make me super happy.
And
It
then
sounds though.
when they make their way to the top and Wiz BlizzCon, they're truly the Lords of the Storm. Well, not we're still the Lords of the Storm, but they're like the Lords of
Lords
the
of
Storm.
HGC
Yeah.
of the Storm.
Right.
We'll have to discuss this. We'll have to think about this. So like it's just like I just have one of those light bulb moments. And then finally, guys, I want to get your predictions just for NA side because that's what we are. Who do you think is going to get that third slot? You think it's going to be Superstars, Space Station, Tempo, or Gale Force?
I'm going GFE. I'm going to jump right in
it's-
there.
Tempo or Gale Force, but Justin brought up a really good point, and even speaking with Udall last week or 2 weeks ago, the way they prepare for their matches is incredible. And while they don't necessarily really know who they're playing, I think they are probably going to come in the most prepared for this, even though they have that top spot and only have to win the one game. I think they're going to be ready for it.
Okay. I don't know. Like GFE seems like the obvious pick, right?
They're the pick I want.
You never know with
frankly.
Tempo. Like,
Yeah, but
Tempo
they've had
Tempo
such
has
a-
really just not been impressing me at all lately. I mean, they definitely looked better this last weekend. There was a little spark of kind of their old play, but I don't know. I think it would be really cool if Space Station got it in a lot
That
of
would
ways.
be cool. I'd support
But I mean, my brain says GFE. That just makes sense. But like Justin was saying, it would be kind of cool if one of the other teams that didn't have a lot of LAN experience got in and got some of that too.
fair enough. All right, Malty, now that you're back, let's take a slight trip back into the future here for tips and tricks. What are your tips and tricks for this week?
Well, my tip was going to be what do the kids say these days? Get good. Is that how it's pronounced?
Yeah.
Oh no, no. But seriously,
That's the tip.
That is the tip. That is the tip. No, but okay. I was going to talk a little bit about stutter stepping in general. I feel like we need to have another full segment on stutter stepping, but I just kind of want to say, like, if any of you guys are in the same boat I am, to where like you get it, you can do it fairly well, and sometimes you have games where you feel like you truly do it exceptionally well, but then you also have some games where you feel like you're maybe a little tired, getting a little lazy, and not doing it quite as well, just because of various reasons like those. Then I'd venture to say if you're on the upper end of that curve and you're just on point, like if you just played a Vala game where you just tore up the enemy team and had so much hero damage, siege damage, whatever, then just keep rolling with it. When you queue up for the next Hero League, try to get in that role again. Try to squeeze yourself in, because if you're in that zone and then you end up having to switch to someone who it's not as important on, perhaps I'm thinking like Johanna maybe. I mean, yes, of course you can stutter step on tanks that have weak auto attacks, but it's not as impactful as someone on like, Vala, or actually Ana is a super stutter stepper. Like that's how we tie it in down the road here. Talk about stutter stepping plus Ana, because there's just so much to unpack there for sure. I think someone even requested that fairly recently for us to actually go back and hammer out stutter steps. I'd have to look again at our Discord to see who that was, but yeah, and so Lunara is another big one that you could pick up and try out with that. So I guess my overall tip here is just simply, if you're in the zone when it comes to stutter stepping and like ranged auto attacks, just embrace it. Just do it. And frankly, you could just practice one of those heroes. Like Vala, again, I feel like you could just take Vala in every game all the time and pretty much be okay in Hero League. So just a thought.
And AI stutter steps now. So
yes,
it's time. Now is the time to pick up on the stutter stepping. If it's something you've been putting off, well,
yeah, you don't want to get outshone by the AI.
Yeah,
that's right. It's the last thing you want.
All right. We have time. So we got a couple emails in this week. We only have time for one this week.
Whoa.
Oh my gosh, what am I doing?
Don't forget the oh my gosh.
I'm sorry.
You're killing me.
I miscalculated. So we traveled back in time, and now I traveled too far forward in time. So coming back a little bit here.
This is reminding me of the plot of Warcraft now.
A little bit here. Yeah. It's just hold on.
We're in Warlords.
Is this Draenor, or I'm lost? Which Draenor is this?
We've written the first Chronicles. It's in production. We're working on the second. The lore, it'll
Those are amazing books, by the way.
They are. They're really good.
They are, both of them.
You're welcome for the plug, Blizzard. World of Warcraft Chronicles. You can find them on the Blizzard store. TBK, what do you got for community content shout out this week?
Two things. First, I ran across this Twitter, Pile of the Pylon, and it's fairly new, just starting out, but making like animated pixel art of Overwatch and Heroes stuff. It's really cool. I'm a sucker for like the pixel art stuff.
Oh yeah.
So
it's
I just wanted to shout that out.
It's a very
that's really cool.
Underrated art form.
It really
because I love it, and it is much harder than you would think. I've gone in a couple times to try. It's very difficult to make look good.
Yeah, that like it looks crappier, I guess, in some ways than some art forms, but yet it's still completely out of my grasp.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it looks crappier. I mean, it's just different art style. TBK, gosh,
it's a lower. Well, it's
crappier,
lower resolution quality.
Lower resolution. It's not crappier because it's its own thing. It's its own style. Yeah, that's a better way to put it.
Yes,
not crappy, because I love this style. I love the pixel art. Like Blizzard even had like a different type of pixel art, like more the old school Mega Man ish look, I guess, of a bunch of Heroes characters, and I love that stuff. That stuff looks so good.
There's a place for art like this. I mean, think of the emojis in Heroes of the Storm.
Oh yeah, for sure. So, like, big props. I really like that type of thing.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry I pooped on your pixel arts.
No,
pixel poops.
Pixel poops.
I feel like that is out there somewhere too. You could probably Google that one. I don't recommend it.
Come on, guys. This isn't core. Let's quit with the poop jokes.
No poop jokes.
Okay.
Shots fired.
Also, Con Before the Storm. This is big. They announced all their stuff just a few days ago.
Mm-hmm.
But this is going to be Thursday night, the Thursday before BlizzCon. They have a ton of panels this year. They're doing a Before the Con live stream, and then on November 2nd, that night, starting at 6 p.m. Pacific time, there's going to be a BlizzCon kickoff panel. There's going to be a Hearthstone panel, a podcasting Q&A panel, which Greg will be a part of.
Yes.
So if you want to go see Gizmo, he's going to be with Pat Crane, I believe, and several other awesome podcasters for the podcast panel. That's at 7 Pacific. And then the Heroes of the Storm panel is going to be at 8:30 Pacific time, and I'm actually going to be on that one, joined by a lot of familiar faces from the Heroes podcasting world, and Scott Johnson's going to be moderating that. We had a ton of fun last year, so I really hope you can make it over there. There's some great meet and greets. A lot of people show up. An amazing, amazing art gallery from so many different artists. It's so fun to just walk around. They have them all displayed on the walls in the Hilton conference rooms that they run out for that. So if you haven't heard of the event, conbeforethestorm.com/world-of-podcast is the World of Podcast info. So definitely go check that out.
Yeah, and if you have been to BlizzCon before and haven't gone to this and are going to BlizzCon again this year, do not miss it. It really is. It's one of the highlights of the trip for me. There's a lot of really cool people just to hang out with and talk with. So, and the art.
Do you guys know if they're going to stream the panels or at least provide audio somewhere? Because I'm not going, but I definitely still want to see it.
Yes, they will be providing audio, and I believe they will be allowing all the podcast streams to upload their individual ones they were a part of, just in their unedited form. So for all you guys who would want to listen to that, like we did last year, we will upload that audio for the Heroes panel to our stream, so you can check that out as well.
And we may do the podcasting panel as well, just for if there's some good info there, which hopefully there will.
I'd want to hear it.
Hopefully.
Yeah. All right, now going from back in time to forward to back to real time here. We got a few emails this week. Unfortunately, we're only going to have time to get through one. But again, if you have any questions, always send them in to us or hit us up on Discord, Twitter, all those things. So without further ado, let's get to those. All right, Multi. So what do we have from Ghost Bear?
From Ghost Bear, which again, sweet name. With Ana coming into the Nexus, she is getting a hero damage over time that deals 44 damage over 5 seconds per stack, up to a maximum of 5 stacks, so doing 220 damage over 5 seconds. The question is, how will this affect Lunara's gameplay? And also, while I can't find it listed in her description, it is said in the reveal that she had longer range than most heroes. This is talking about Ana once more. So assuming that means she is at range 6.5 rather than 5.5 like Vala or Jaina, this is the same bonus that Raynor gets as his trait. Should we be expecting Raynor to get a redesign, like making Adrenaline Rush his trait and giving him a new ability for his E? So interesting question about Raynor at the end there. I kind of want to unpack some of this ahead of time. So I know when this came up in Discord, there was a bit of a discussion of what the ranges actually are. Do either of you have that pulled up currently?
I believe it is 6.5.
So base range is 6.5, but then she has that talent where you can convert it to, like, your D becomes a toggleable, where you're moving slower but have a larger range. And what's the range then? It's 10 something?
I don't remember what it is exactly, but you can actually, it's further than tower range.
Yeah, exactly.
You can actually hit towers at a range.
You're getting kind of Sergeant Hammery in your approach at that point. Not quite in the same way. You're not doing splash damage. You're not doing siege damage, really, a ton. You're just kind of picking away at the towers with tiny needles, which seems weird, but whatever. But it works on heroes, though, for sure. And the question about Lunara and impacting her, I mean, of course, this is another ranged auto attacker that would apply a dot. So I would think that they would stack okay. Do we know offhand as well? Sorry, I didn't look into this ahead of time, but whether the dose counts as a poison or is it just its own damage type?
It's its own thing.
That's kind of what I thought.
Yeah, it's its own thing.
Yeah.
So it's plus
Because there's new
really
UI for it, so you'll see the little dots.
No, I've seen all that for sure. I just didn't know if it was like the game considered that a poison or what. But yeah, just standard damage over time. So I don't know. I definitely haven't tried those two together yet, Ana and Lunara, but I could see some goodness out of it. I mean, if you've got an enemy team that just doesn't handle sustained damage like that very well, and you just want to melt someone down in like a drawn out sustained way as opposed to bursty, could be pretty cool, I think. But I don't know. What do you guys think about all this?
So I think Yeah, you could stack those, but I think the question is kind of more in effect on how will this affect Lunar now that we have a hero that also does DOT, but is a
Even more
support.
ranged.
Yeah, and can
Yeah.
with the healing and stuff. I've never really been much of a Lunara player, and honestly, you don't really see him around that much anymore. But this question, when it came into my mind, brought like flashbacks in my head to Dunk Train and Dread at the summit in their really long enthusiastic discussion on Lunara being OP, the most OP hero in the game. I don't remember. I think it was Dreadnought saying that she was the most OP hero in the game, and she hasn't been changed in a long time. So I don't really know. I can see. I don't know her damage off the top of my head, apart as far as max stacks, how much total damage can be done. Obviously, I do believe hers is going to be more because she is the assassin.
Sure.
But she also has more ability or mobility, which Ana doesn't really have. That's kind of one of the things she's lacking. So I wouldn't really think it would affect her all that much unless you can, again, are just wanting the damage over time and are working into, we have the duo support meta right now, that playing into it. I don't know. But when it comes to Raynor, this is also an interesting topic because this has been debated for a while. It's been in our Discord, it's been on Twitter, it's been on Reddit. From Twitter, and I believe it was Bakery did a poll, and I believe the results from his poll were that Raynor didn't need a rework. I might be wrong on that, but I know there was a lot of people that thought he was fine, and again, that it's okay to have an entry-level character that doesn't necessarily have to have 3 abilities, just because, you can still play that character to a high level, but they are easy to pick up. I don't really know if I want to redesign or not. I would be okay either way, I guess is kind of where I stand on him. I could see it, but then I could also see them keeping it. I don't know, TBK?
I think the thing, I think you guys covered the Ana part pretty well. I think the biggest thing for me is the Raynor piece, and it is really interesting because you want to have those entry level characters, right? You want to have those easy to play things, but at the same time, we're talking 4 buttons, QWER. Like that's not a whole lot to keep track of. It really isn't. Raynor is just old. He's based off of very old philosophies that Blizzard had much earlier on. I mean, you can just see that in his trait. His trait is more range. That's a ridiculous. At this stage, it just feels like a very outdated trait.
Especially now that Ana's base range is his trait.
It's just I mean that's
I think that's what Ghost Bear's kind of touching on here, for sure.
And I completely agree with that. I think it's time for a little update. What would I do with it? I think moving his adrenaline boost to his trait is actually a really good idea. I mean, it's a very cool trait. It's actually a very useful thing, and you could have talents to customize it a little bit more. I mean, he's got some in. And then maybe give him some sort of cool E ability, whether it's like maybe a little homing beacon or something, or
it could even be a range boost.
Yeah, I don't know. But I mean, it would. I think it'd be good. I think it'd be good to give him a new E ability, move his adrenaline boost to his trait, and then just give him the extra range automatically because it's sure not unprecedented right now. But I mean, that doesn't mean you have to make him complicated. He's still in his core a right-click auto attack thing. You got your Q, you got your W that makes him auto attack and move faster. You could have another E ability that complements that as well. And as far as a talent tree rework goes, I mean, I don't think he necessarily needs a huge talent tree rework. Maybe don't go in and give him 10 million quests. to do because quests in and of themselves a lot of times feel like if you don't do them, you're missing out on power. It's not always like that, but it definitely can have that sense of, oh crap, if I don't pick the quest on this talent tier, I'm going to miss out on this big boost of power. So I'm just going to go with the simple thing over here, but maybe I'm gimped a little bit. I don't know if Raynor needs that crazy overhaul. I'm okay if you just tweak what he currently has, maybe replace some of his generic-y stuff with a little more specific stuff, maybe even keep questing out of his tree and just let him do his thing, keep him a little more simplistic, easy to learn with his base abilities, and then just go from there.
Yeah, and I'd agree with that.
He needs a little love. He needs a little love, though.
Yeah, I could see that. It's kind of like because he doesn't need a complete overhaul, but like a half rework or something, I can see. But that is going to do it for this week. We're running out of time here. So before we go, real quick, because we don't want to leave you guys too soon, but Multi, where can we be reached?
Oh, we can be found in-game by typing /join space LOTS, or you can join our Discord, which is sticking at the top of our Twitter, and that's at, of course, at Lords of the Storm. We're on twitch.tv/Lords of the Storm, live Wednesday nights at 9 p.m. Central. Also, we've got our Facebook page, facebook.com/Lords of the Storm podcast. If you want to leave us with any sort of feedback or questions, we've got an email, lordsofthestorm@outlook.com. And another way to do that would be to leave a positive review, hopefully, but any kind. 5-star iTunes reviews are most welcome, though, as well as positive Stitcher. And then if you really want to help with the show even further beyond that, we've got our Patreon, patreon.com/Lords of the Storm, where, again, you guys can give any amount that you deem appropriate or not at all. And either way, we appreciate you all, for sure.
Absolutely. You can also find us individually. You can find myself on Twitter, Twitch, Facebook, all those things at Gizmozord, as well as Convert to Raid Presents, the BattleNet News, the podcasts about all things Blizzard, heavy on the WoW. Multi, where can you be reached?
Oh, I'm on Twitter at Multizord. And I also want to point you guys at that other show called The Cavalry. It's our Overwatch podcast. I actually guested on there this week. So I'm on there at The Cavalry Show on Twitter. It's also live Wednesdays at 7:30 p.m. on twitch.tv/The Cavalry Show. Usually, we didn't go live this week because Slambo was a little too busy having a child, I guess. So congrats to him.
Yeah.
He's got a new daughter out now. So that's, I say she's out as if it's like an album or something. Out now, Slambo's new daughter. So maybe I'll make the same joke with my own kid in a couple months here. But yeah, super congrats to him.
Yep,
for sure.
For sure. A new Zord has entered the world. TBK, where can you be reached?
You can find me on Twitter at TBKZord and twitch.tv/TBKZord, where I will hopefully be streaming lots of Heroes Friday night. That's the plan. And then usually Mondays and then other random times throughout the week when I have time.
All right. Well, we want to give a special thanks to our patron producer, Ouroboros Zord, for helping support the show. We really do appreciate it. Until next time, we'll see you all in-game, hopefully. New map, new hero. Same time, same place next week, Wednesday night, 9 p.m. Central. Have a good one.
Bye-bye.
Enough. I shall do no more.
And yes,